What's up, guys? So I normally I normally look at the load board for Amazon for the best rates, like between 2 and 4 in the morning. But I picked up a load kind of late yesterday. I had dropped one early in the morning, and it took a little bit to find me the load I wanted. So by the time I got it loaded, I'd kind of eaten up quite a bit of my day, and so I didn't make it straight through on a single shot. I had to stop, do a 10-hour break, and around the time that I should be looking at these to try and show you guys the best paying loads, I'm going to have to be driving. So my apologies for that, but obviously I gotta put food on the table before I can say I'm doing anything else. Um, the YouTube thing is kind of a hobby, just trying to help other people out. My YouTube channel isn't a business like it is for some people where they're selling merchandise and they got 100,000 viewers and these people are making 10,000 a month on their YouTube channel. Although it'd be nice to have, it's just not the reality. So, anyways, I'm going to start by saying that I had a couple guys ask me for 26-foot box trucks. They wanted information on that. Terrence in Philly and Undrea, I think I'm mispronouncing that, wanted North Carolina. There's not a whole lot for box trucks on here. I don't know if I'm just looking at the wrong time. From just looking at other people's YouTube videos about Amazon box trucks, because I do have the curiosity now. A whole bunch of people are posting they're doing them. I kind of felt like a box truck pays very little. And if you look at my other videos, I kind of comment where you get a load out of LA heading to Vegas for $400, but then if you don't get a load out of Vegas and you live in LA, you got to go back to LA to grab another load. So now you're getting $400 to go loaded and come back empty. And I think when you break that down per mile, you end up being at less than $1 a mile. And so it piqued my curiosity because there's got to be a reason people are doing them. And as I've watched other people's YouTube videos on box trucks, it seems like 90% of that work is at night. So it could be to look at box truck pricing or to book them needs to happen in the mornings or during the day. There may just not be any box truck loads to book at night. And so I'll try and check again tomorrow after I get to my receiver on this load. But for now, just to show you guys what I'm talking about, I'm going to set up the filters to show us pretty much anywhere in the country. And you'll see there's only 9 results in the whole country for box trucks. And so there's one out of Massachusetts, heading to Boston. It's 20 miles. For 20 miles, $380 isn't bad. If you could do a few of those in a day, you'd make, if you could do 4 of them and you get up in that $1,200 range, then I'd say you're making money. But if you look at the time here, this says it's going to take 8 hours for you to do. I guess a question I would have for people that are doing box loads now, can you combine some of these loads? If they're within a short distance of each other, the destination points, can you put 2 or 3 of them in the same truck? And maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe these guys are combining 2 or 3 loads, and I'm thinking of it in terms of the power only and the box truck or the 53-foot provided and required loads. You can't combine those loads. Anyway, so there's a long box truck load there, 773 miles, but it still only pays $1.55 a mile. Seems a little bit on the thin side for me, but there's one going from Phoenix to Ohio. I didn't even know they sent box trucks this far. and maybe that's why these are still sitting here and haven't been booked up. So there's one going from Lubbock to Fort Worth. And I know these aren't the areas you guys wanted, but honestly, this is all there is in the whole country. I may just be looking at the wrong time, and that's the bottom of the list, guys. I'll try and check it out again, you know, in the morning after I get to my my destination. But I think I had 2 guys that asked for box trucks. Yeah, Terrence wanted in Philly, and I'm not even gonna try and butcher your name again because I think I already butchered it the first time. My apologies if I did. But the one for North Carolina, you know, you guys can see there's nothing on there. I'll take a look later on and see if I can find something. I'll move on here. We had out of Sacramento, David Medina wanted to know about power only. So Sacktown it is. There's Sacramento. I know because I've been to them. Amazon has like 2 locations in the closest vicinity to Sacramento. Then they have one in Tracy, and I want to say there's another one that they send quite a bit of freight out of in Vallejo. And so equipment, we're going to do 53-footer, and he was interested in power only. Bear with me a minute, guys. I did make notes so I could try and stay on point. I tend to ramble and go in circles, but I got to read my own chicken scratch. So there's 16 loads as of right now in your area. So there's Vacaville. Vacaville is the one I forgot. So there's Vacaville going to Penfield, Indiana. That's a team load, power only, 2 days and 7 hours for $6,200. On a per day basis, that's not bad. You know, you're making just under $2,000 a day. But, you know, my honest opinion, a load out of California heading to the Midwest, you could probably, even as a single driver, book an $8,000 load on just about any load board. And so I think $6,200 it's a little bit on the shy side. So there's another one, Vacaville, going up to Spokane, Washington. $243 a mile isn't bad. The issue there is you're going to struggle with getting out of there, your return trips. And so there's one for Tracy, 2,086 miles going to Kansas. It's a team load, $243 a mile. You know, again, I think that could be a little bit better. And considering this has to load at 1 in the afternoon, maybe around 4 in the morning, this one will go up a little bit. So there's Newark, California. This is what they call a tour. It's a solo tour. It's going to take you 5 days, and you'll make $6,036, $234. That's not too bad. And it's not too bad because it brings you back home. You know, I just got finished saying you can get better paying loads leaving California, but then the drawback is you come back pretty cheap. So, you know, for what it is, from Newark to Milpitas, I may have mispronounced that one. Then you go from Milpitas back to Newark. Then from Newark down to Southern California to Rialto. Then from Rialto to Spokane, Washington. Then back to Newark. And so that's not a bad loop. Of course, going up into the Washington area, you're going to burn quite a bit of fuel because, you know, they got some pretty heavy hills. But, you know, for the most part, you stay West Coast. You're not going to go into the Midwest. I suppose Washington could have snow and issues like that. But that wouldn't be a bad load. If I was in that area, 5 days, $6,000, guaranteed, you know, it's a toss-up. I've gotten kind of spoiled with the loads I'm getting these days. So there's a Stockton heading out to Salt Lake City, $1.83 a mile. And of course, once you drop, you don't have anything leaving. You'd have to find something else on the load board and hope there's something there. So here's another round trip loop. Looks similar to the last one, only this one you'll do it in, I think the last one was 5 days. Well, 5 days and a half was the last one. So this isn't too bad. Vacaville to Phoenix, this is a one-way, which means you'd have to find a load coming back. 1335. I'm going to tell you, I did a load from Southern California to Goodyear, Arizona. I did that, granted it was like right before Christmas, so maybe the peak season affected that. And even then I don't think so, because it was flooring, now that I think about it. So I took a load from the LA market out there to the Arizona area, and I got $2,100. And so if you want to consider what you do miles-wise here, you know, this is way further. You obviously got to get to Southern California and then cut across to get to Phoenix. And so, you know, any load board load coming out of LA pays better than that $1,300. It'd be cheaper for you to deadhead to LA and get a $2,000 load going to Phoenix than to take that $1,300 load from Northern California. Just my opinion. So there's Stockton to Salt Lake City, $1.83. They say you can do that in 15 hours, which, you know, it's basically illegal. You can't do it in 15 hours. You know, by 15 hours you have to take a 10-hour break. So if you subtract 10 hours, that means in 5 hours and 58 minutes, let's say 6 hours, they're expecting you to travel 700 miles, throw in load time and unload time. So you need a truck that can travel at warp speed. You know, I got 505 horses with a 13 speed, and I can't make that schedule. I know I'm being silly. On that load, if you take it, you would have to call the ROC office and request that they reschedule you so you have an appointment when you show up, and so they don't hit your performance schedule. So here's another round trip. It looks very similar to the last couple of ones we've looked at. Again, you're out for 5 days. You make $6,000. There's another round trip with 10 stops. You know, about the same thing. 5 days, and you make $6,600. There's one from Vacaville to Phoenix again for $1,300. Tracy back to Tracy, 6 stops. You know, in 5 days you make $6,000. And there's a couple more of them like that. This is a one-way going to Pennsylvania, 3,000 miles almost. You know, it's $2,790. They say it'll take you 3 days to get there. $4,500. Again, I think that's cheap. Something out of LA heading to Pennsylvania, you can probably get 7,000 to 8,000. And so again, you know, instead of taking that, I'd deadhead. If that was your only choice, I would deadhead to LA and just book a load out of LA and save some fuel. But odds are you could get yourself something on a load board for, you know, $800 to get yourself down into LA and then get yourself an $8,000 load heading to Pennsylvania and make more money. That's just my opinion. So you got Stockton to Salt Lake City, $1.83 a mile. Again, they say 15 hours to travel 700 miles. I guess these people don't realize California has a lower speed limit. Here's a team load, 19 hours. You know, funny how now this is a team load, and they give you 19 hours to get there, and it's 700 miles, but yet the solo is supposed to make it in the same time. You see what I mean on that? Anyway, so that is your Bay Area. Even though I entered Stockton, our filter, I'll show you again at the top, is for a 100-mile radius. So within that radius, I believe it will include Hell, I think that even includes Reno, because it's a radius in air miles, not by how far you drive. So that should include loads leaving Reno, the Bay Area, Napa, and all that. So that covers David Medina's request for Sacramento. Then we got Middleton, Delaware. Dimitri requested that. So let's check out Middleton, Delaware. Oh, I already had it here because I searched for it earlier. So again, same parameters. We're doing 100-mile radius. He wanted a 53-foot trailer, and he wanted to look at both provided and required. In other words, power only or required is what Amazon calls it. So there's 43 results in the Middleton area. Now, mind you, that's within 100 miles. And if you guys hadn't noticed, right there at the very top, I just scrolled it up. So what I request, this pickup is 71.97 miles from the center of Middleton. And so when you look at the video and you look at these things, try and kind of break it down a little bit. Up at the top, it shows you the deadhead from where you requested it. And then to the right, where it says 169 miles, that's going to be, how many miles are loaded, and then the time frame on the schedule that they anticipate is 5 hours 1 minute. Below that, it says 53-foot trailer. That's the equipment required, and in this case, it's provided, meaning Amazon provides it. Over where it says number 1, next to that, that's the name of their location, and then it shows the city and state, and if you click on them, it kind of opens up a better description, where you're going, if it's a loaded trailer, if it's an empty trailer. It kind of gives you all that in a breakdown. A little hack: if you hold your finger over the address, it selects it, and then if you click on maps, it'll show you on a map, and you can do your routing that way. Amazon's application, when it's assigned to you, will end up putting it in the application. It'll give you turn by turn, and the cool thing is it gives you routing for a truck route, not like Google, where it'll have you up the side of some mountain road on a dead end, and then your truck ends up like on one of those Swift jokes. And so at the very bottom of this breakout, if you click on the money sign, it kind of gives you a breakdown of what the base rate is, and then what the fuel surcharge is, and if there's tolls. This particular one doesn't have tolls. Then if you click on here, it shows you the estimated payout, or you can click on map, and it kind of shows you where you're going, to and from. So we'll move on to the next one. Here you have another load, $1.48 a mile. This is for Tuesday. This one loads pretty quick, and it's still pretty cheap for some reason. There's a better paying one by the mile, 42 miles, and it's, almost $5.50 a mile. According to them, you can do it in 2 hours. And so, depending on how this area is, because, here's another one right below it. So, I mean, if you could grab up both of these and knock them out, no, maybe not. Looks like they're going in different directions. Sorry. There's been times, and I've had friends tell me they've done it, especially in the LA market. You have like ONT 6, ONT 7, ONT 8, ONT 3, and they're all within like 5 or 6 miles of each other. And these guys sometimes are able to book 2 or 3 of these things back to back, and each one pays, $275 to $350, and they can make themselves $1,000 day and travel under 100 miles. If your area's like that, if you have several facilities that are close together, that's worthwhile. Then I would say look at the smaller, cheaper loads. And so here's one, 54 miles, pays $612 at $11 a mile, and they say you can get it done in under 3 hours, I'd consider that. I'm not from the area, so I don't know if, traffic's crazy or what it may be, but that's pretty well paid. If there's nothing else in your area, I'd consider that and then try and grab something from there. Here's another one, 42 miles, 234. There's another one, 42 miles, 234. I wonder if these are all the same locations. Let's see, to PHL5, PHL5, PHL5. They are, and so I don't know if this is something where you could piggyback them. The problem is they all want to load at the same time instead of spreading them out where the first one loads at 10, the second one loads at noon, and the last one loads at 3 or 4. They scheduled them all at the same time, so they want 3 trucks to show up at the same time and probably overload their shipping department, and you guys are all going to sit there waiting for each other instead of spreading them out where maybe one truck can do them all and have themselves a decent day. So here's one that they unlocked. This must be either a preferred route. It's going to Jersey. A lot of my drivers don't like going to Jersey. Me personally, I've been out that way a couple times, not really had a struggle. I have noticed that a couple of places you go, you can tell they were built a long time ago, and at the time they were probably intending for day cabs to get in there. Then there's a whole lot of backing up on your blind side, and I think that's why my drivers really don't like going there. I've been to a couple places and not had major struggles, but I could see why some people don't want that. So the next one is 255 miles for 425. This one's a what they call a tour. So you start in Baltimore, come back to Baltimore. It's a total of 6 hooks, 260 miles for $480. It kind of eats up most of your day. To me, that's kind of cheap. And when I say things are cheap, guys, that's my opinion based on my overhead of my company. If you own your own truck, the truck's paid for, your living expenses are under control. Maybe you're a young single guy, and you don't need to make really high money, and you're just trying to get your feet wet. I'm not trying to discourage anyone. Me personally, I got a stay-at-home wife, 2 kids, car payments, a house payment. I need to make a little more money, and I have several trucks, so my insurance cost it's high. If I don't keep them running, it gets tough. But if I don't bill enough, it also gets tough. And then because I have drivers, if I put them on the road for a 3-hour trip and that's all I give them for the day, they're going to quit. And so I have to find the juicier stuff. So getting back to here, sorry I went on a tangent there. There's short hauls, and in my opinion, paid a little bit on the cheap side. There's a better one, at least by the mile. There's 6 drops, $4.85 a mile. And it's going to take you 6 hours. So on these loads where it's going to take 6 hours, and you're going to make $300, you're making less than $50 an hour. I guess that's the other way you want to look at that. What's your time frame? So here's like a 3-hour one where you're making $280. Actually, it's 4 hours. It's 3 hours and 58 minutes. So let's say it's 4, and so divide that into 281, and just take that into account. At least that's my opinion. So there's a $4.40 a mile load, but they're saying it's going to take a day. So I don't know if this place, TNN2, is really slow to unload, or if the scenario there is such that, they don't have the capacity to receive a lot of trucks, so they schedule you out a ways. Yeah, I was about to say this was a decent load for 161 miles, but if you look closely here, 1 day, 4 hours, um, now they're keeping you hostage basically, or like I like to say, I should be charging rent for my trailer. To make that 744, they're going to hold you over for a day. So there's 237 a mile for a loop or a tour as they call it, a total of 6 stops, 7 hours. So again, you take that 407, divide it by 7, that's kind of what you're making per hour. I mean, there's work there in the PA area for sure, but it seems kind of cheap. There's 203 a mile for 570 miles. Of course, the thing you want to consider when you take these further loads is you then have to find yourself a load back. Amazon doesn't guarantee you anything unless you book a round trip. So that's just something else to keep in mind. Here is $1.83 a mile. For 657 miles, you get $1,200, and it's going to take you a whole day to do it. There's 154 miles for $340. There's a load going to Memphis. It's a team load. Still cheap in my opinion. $1.86 for another team load to Oklahoma City. I'll tell you, Amazon doesn't have a whole lot from Oklahoma City, so if you were to do that, what you would probably have to trip plan for is deadheading into Dallas to get yourself an outbound load. Oh, my screen's locking up. So I was about to say here's another not bad one, but because it's 221 miles, but it's a day and 4 hours to make that 875. And honestly, Amazon knows people don't want them, and that's kind of why they pay more by the mile to entice you. And what will happen is you'll take it, you'll fill their load, but then you'll quickly realize, man, that wasn't worth it for all the time I sat there. So then you won't take another one, and again, the price goes up on it. Amazon's really smart about what they do, believe me. So here's one from PA to Dallas. It's a team load, $1.83 a mile. Day and a half, you make $2,600. That's borderline. Personally, I'd like to try and get more for my teams. That's just my opinion. This one's not too bad, even though it's cheap on the per mile. You've got 757 miles. They say it takes 657. I just don't know if you can do that in 19 hours because you have to subtract your 10-hour break from that. So you'd probably be late. There's another team going to, or is that the one I looked at already? It's a team going to Memphis. There's one going to Dallas. Yeah, so some of these loads are repeating themselves because they got more than one. There's another. It's a money maker, but it's still cheap. So in a day you'll make $1,200, but honestly I think you can do better. Amazon rates are definitely going down, and that's the bottom of the list. And they've been going down because, of course, Christmas passed, peak is over, and they're also doing a bunch of short-term contracts, which, people are taking those primarily for the sake of staying busy and having work every day. Personally, they're too cheap, and I think even if you're getting, a guaranteed whatever week out of one of these contracts, they're like $3,200 for the week. And yeah, they keep you local. You come back at the end of every day. You're home every night. But you take that $3,200, subtract fuel, subtract your truck payment, subtract your insurance, and it doesn't leave very much money for the truck for your maintenance fund and then still expect to have a salary for yourself as a driver. Just my opinion. Personally, I jumped off of Amazon. I've been doing work with a dispatch service, and they get me decent rates. I'm in the $3 a mile range pretty consistently. I get the occasional $4. It's better money for me. Anyways, I hope this helps. I hope it fulfills the questions some of you guys asked. I'll check out the dry box market later on in the morning, maybe during the days when they come up. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.